Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, child abuse is a dark reality whose statistics are alarming and consequences are devastating. In 2024, last year alone, unofficial estimates suggest that over 5,000 child abuse cases reported across the country. And unfortunately, Punjab was at the top with over 62% of the cases. While across Pakistan in last 6 years, child abuse cases surged by 33% accumulatively. Approximately 13 children abused daily, but only 299 perpetrators in last 6 years were convicted. This is an alarming situation. There are several forms of child abuse, including the physical, emotional, and sexual, and along with that, even neglect categorized as an abuse. Pakistan legislated, enacted, and tried its best to implement lots of legislations, laws, rules, and regulations for having the safe environment for our children. But despite of that, culprits of such crime, such heinous crime, or always go away as they had done nothing. And the basic thing is the stern implementation, the real-time implementation of these laws, rules, and regulations. Recently, the National Assembly Standing Committee on Interior has unanimously passed a legislation. It's an amendment into the Code of Criminal Procedure 1898 to be further passed from both of the houses of the Parliament to make these amendments as a part of existing law. It's related to the establishment of the child courts across the country in every district, squeeze the time of hearings and overall case in just 6 months to decide, and even mandatory to have daily basis hearings, along with the medical report is a must in 24 hours rather than 48 hours earlier, and to have sanctity of those who were abused. At least their identity of those children along with their family must have to be kept in secret, and lots of other important aspects. Today we'll explore how the child abuse could be eradicated from our country, how society can become more responsible, how government, the agencies, the different agencies, the civil society, the parents, teachers could play their role, their due role particularly, as a part that how we can save our children and their future. How special courts would be effective, as we have already the courts working in different provinces. How reporting of such crimes, investigation, prosecution, and conviction could be strengthened and enhanced. How policing would be strengthened. How the implementation of these laws would be made across Pakistan. To discuss this very important issue of our children's future, as they are the future of Pakistan, we have in our studios Advocate Sharafat Chaudhry. He is a criminal justice expert and also the Advocate High Court. Most welcome to you, Chaudhry. Thank you very much for your presence. We have in our studios Dr. Malik Hammad Ahmad. He is the human rights educationist. Most welcome to you, Malik sir. Thank you very much for your presence. And online joining us, Advocate Syed Miqdad Mehdi. He is a child rights expert and activist, and along with that, he is the Advocate High Court and also the proponent and author of the Zainab Alert Response and Recovery Act 2020. Most welcome to you, Miqdad sahab. Thank you very much for your presence online. My first question to you, Dr. Malik Ahmad sahab. According to the several estimates in the reports, year 2024 saw a surge in child abuse cases and swelled at least to 5,623 cases across Pakistan. This is basically an unofficial estimate. 62% of the cases reported only in the Punjab province. While it's another reality that in the last 6 years, at least 33% surge we have seen across Pakistan, and conviction rate is very low. That is 299 culprits of the heinous crimes. So how do you see where the problem lies? and where we have to be more focused?
Thank you, Faisal, for taking this issue at your program. And this is, I would say, that part of awareness as well. So this is really, appreciable. Regarding your question, the thing is, as you mentioned about the issues, like 5,000, more than 5,000 cases, regarding the acquittal cases as well as the incomplete, justice in that sense. So this is the major issue that you mentioned about, that 33% cases increased in various.
And these are just the reported cases.
Reported cases.
Unreported cases might be higher than that.
And another issue, came up, that we do not have any, like accurate data on these cases.
Definitely.
The
centralized data is not available.
Government does not have any data set up, any MIS, system for reporting these cases, and so that they could make policies accordingly, and they could also know in which district they have more cases, as such as, if we know about the Kasur, district, where we had case in 2015, and then we have case in
where
2018,
even the common citizen can report those cases.
So this is one of the major issues, and we have to consult either non-development organizations, database, which has, these NGOs, they have lesser, resources, human as well as financial, to look after the whole country. So this is one of the major issues in Pakistan, that we do not have proper data regarding the child abuses in the country, nor about that what has been happened previously, and where are we going to be in that issue. For instance, if we have laws, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, that Pakistan has so many laws, and I have also seen, so many laws in the last, 6-7 years or even a decade regarding human rights, including the child rights. We have so many institutions now in the country, especially after 2015 and 2017 incidents. But the thing is, who is going to, and how are we going to make them accountable? How are we going to evaluate these laws implementation in the country? So one is, we do not have data, accurate data. Second, the implementation of the laws, seeing them, that whether how many people or the victims, they got justice, and how many accused they got justice, so that accused who got justice, that should also be propagated as the issue when it arises. The thing is, if we in society, if we talk about the crimes all the time, and if we do not talk about the justice met after that crime, then the criminals, they get power, they get encouragement to do that, because they know that, oh, nothing going to happen. And in that sense, the whole thing comes up at the end.
You are absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right. Sharafat, how much vital is to establish the child courts across Pakistan? We have existing mechanism there in Pakistan already, but in every district, city or jurisdiction, exclusively tasked with hearing of the child abuse, including the physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and the neglect as well. Recently, as the National Assembly's Standing Committee on Interior unanimously passed a private member bill, that is the Code of Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill 2024. It's section 9A, 164A, 366A, and 497, introduced by the PMLN legislator Sayyida Nosheen Iftikhar. It's amendment in the Code of Criminal Procedure 1898. So how it is important, how much it is important to have these child courts across the country?
Well, as far as the importance of the child courts, their presence, their functioning of the child protection courts are concerned, there's no doubt in it that they are very much required. Just a few, I think a few days ago, Justice Mansoor Ali Shah,
yes,
in one of his speeches, said that Pakistan need to establish more child courts. But we also need to consider that what is the current situation, whether we need a legislation or we need to enforce the existing legislation. As you just discussed in your preliminary speech, and my fellow also discussed that there's been a lot of legislation.
Yes.
Miqdad is online, and we have been collectively working, I think it's more than a decade. Right now in Pakistan, every province got its own child protection law. Every province got its child protection. Interestingly, all those legislations require special courts. Situation may be slightly different because in Balochistan, in Islamabad capital territory, the charge is given to the family court. They are designated as a special court. In Sindh, in Punjab and in KP, they are court of crime. They can try the criminals as well. The additional session judges, they are given powers to be a child court. But the child courts in legislation already exist, more specifically since 2010, when the KP child protection.
Is it a kind of overlapping legislation, or it is going to be vital to have separate
Definitely overlapping. When you look into the bill, every provision of this current bill, I would say, I'm awfully sorry to say, it appears to be that the person who drafted this didn't know what existing legislation is there. You come about the, that the provincial legislations, already they got a, you can say, a need for child protection code.
Okay.
And the most important legislation that the federal government enacted, that is the Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act. Per se, it's only Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act. The word rape comes in this legislation, but that's a kind of misleading. This legislation covers more than 30 offenses, all are sexual offenses. And Section 3 of the Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act also says that the existing gender-based violence courts, juvenile justice system, the courts established under the Juvenile Justice System Act, juvenile courts and the child courts, those are, you can say, established under the provincial courts. They all shall be, they shall deemed to be as the courts established under the Anti-Rape Act.
So
and all the procedures that's been given here, that's already provided there. The most important thing is, if whether we need to work on the legislation or we need to work on the enforcement of the
of the law. So, Sharafat sir, how vital it is, if we are talking about particularly this bill, how effective it would be regarding the investigation, the prosecution in child abuse cases, because it means that you are talking about enforcement. When the bill says that 6 months trial limit for filing the charge sheet from the day the charge sheet filed, ensuring that the proceedings are concluded promptly and without unnecessary adjournments, having day-to-day trials to minimize actually the delays and further trauma to the child victim. Magistrate record the testimony of the aggrieved child victim with the help of psychologists or psychiatrists and in a child-friendly environment. And also that this bill suggests that there must have to be a sanctity of that family and the child must be intact. So how do you see this bill? I think so the language of this bill is quite impressive and it says a lot about that. But it is another case that we have some sort of duplication. But do you not think that this bill also covers, and when we are talking about the limit of the trial, and then expeditiously those cases must have to be decided?
Well, as far as the ambitious of expressed in this bill, there's no doubt.
I think so the sincerity is there in the ambitions and
objectives. I personally know the mover. She's been a lady who's very concerned about the women
and she is very active. She is very active,
very concerned about the women and child protection. I got at some level to work with her. There's no doubt in it that the intention of this bill is pretty good. That's much more needed. But from the practical point of view, we also need to review the existing legislation as well. The only benefit, what I see in this legislation is that this is a criminal law, it's a federal law. This will actually create a kind of new issue that this law then will have to prevail all the provincial legislations, because under Article 143, if there's a conflict of law between the provincial and federal criminal law, the federal law will prevail. So definitely there may be a conflict between federal and provincial laws, but then this law will prevail. And even the Court of Crimes, you know that in other provinces, like as in ICT, in the case of ICT and in Balochistan, the cases may not be dealt of child abuse only with the family courts, rather they will be interested to the Court of Crimes as well. To this extent, I mean that this is fine. As far as you can say, there's a 6 months time in Anti-Rape Act, there's also a 6 months time.
Okay.
But there is, in this bill, if you look into closely, there is an exception, and you know that the fault always lies within the exceptions. There is an exception, even in the Anti-Rape Act. I'm trying to make it parallel because that's also the most recent federal legislation that also deals with these issues. All the abuses, you can say offenses, those are related to child abuse, those are covered under the Anti-Rape Act, and the courts are also you can say provide the same kind of procedure those we talk in this bill. So I see this is a kind of duplication, and I think there's more a serious need to think about that, whether to how far this law is required, maybe a few provisions.
Do you think some exceptions are there?
Well, definitely 6 months is not the absolute. There is an exception that in only in exceptional circumstances the case may go beyond. And you know that the family courts, all the family matters, they require to be dealt within the 4 months. It never happens. All right, the juvenile justice, the juvenile courts need to be decided within the 6 months, but then there are exceptions. So you know that we always fall under the exceptions. As far as the Anti-Rape Act is concerned, that also requires the case to be dealt within the, decided within the 6 months, preferably. The word is preferably. So then we go toward, we use the word preferably, and it, as a practitioner, I can tell you that we did our best in many cases.
Definitely,
but
definitely,
it
no
hardly been happened that cases been tried.
Because the child abuse cases must have to be preferred in
either
courts. No doubt
law
about that.
should
Really.
not have exceptions. There should be rather a kind of penalization for its under, you can say, its utilization or its enforcement. Or we need to consider, you can say, I don't see that there will be any difference with this bill. There has been a pretty good legislation already.
Because always we have seen that problem lies in the investigation process, in prosecution, then obviously the enforcement, law enforcement is the must, and then there are little delays in the trial cases as well. So that is very obvious, but you are absolutely right on that. Advocate Miqdad Sahab, will the proposed establishment of the child courts, the bill which is just passed by the National Assembly in a Committee on Interior, to provide safe and supportive environment for the affected child, provide prompt justice and give hope to the affected families without revealing the family or the child identities, even if the child is witness in some case, the court would act as a guardian itself. So do you think that this is a provision which is very important when it comes to the child abuse?
First of all, thank you so much, Faisal Sahab, for taking up this issue of child protection. And about this bill, definitely, as Sharafat Sahab shared, the intention is very good, but we already have the similar legislation in different statutes. For example, as mentioned earlier, Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act 2021. The same points were also like proposed in the legislation, like the law of Anti-Rape Act says the trial should be concluded in 4 months and appeal should be decided within 6 months. Now there is like more need to implement the law, rather duplication of the same efforts. Maybe intention was good to suggest this bill or to bring in the legislative houses, but maybe there is also a need to implement existing legal framework which has the almost the same provisions. For example, providing assistance through the experts, psychologists, or any other experts which is needed to represent the child in the court processes or in the legal processes. It was already available in the, under the Anti-Rape Act 2021. Almost all our territories, all the provincial territories as well as ICT has child protection laws. Since 2004, we have in Punjab that's Instituting Elected Children Act. Now in 2010, as Sharafat Sahab mentioned, KP Child Protection and Welfare Act is available within KP province. In Sindh, Child Protection Authority Act is available. In Balochistan, a child protection law is available since 2016. And they all propose a child protection code within their jurisdiction. We had our first child protection court in 2004, specialized court, and then they gave the same role to the any other district additional session judge one as a child protection court. And in 2017, first ever child court was established by the Lahore High Court by the Justice Mansoor Ali Shah in Lahore. It was just an administrative settings to manage to deal the cases of the children where the child is complainant, where the child is accused, or where the child is juvenile or a witness. So it was a very good effort by the Lahore High Court, and it was replicated later in the KP, and now the KP has around more than 12 child courts in the province. The purpose was to to provide an exclusive facility of justice in the territory, in the provincial areas. But unfortunately, we see it remained limited in Lahore. Only one court in Punjab.
Your point well taken. Your point well taken. Miqdad sahab, one of the very important aspect, another very important aspect is the reporting of these cases. So it's encouraging that during the last couple of years, the awareness comes a little, particularly through the Zainab Alert Response and Recovery Act 2020, and you were the proponent and the author of this act as well. So this reporting surged now to 220% higher than the previous years, but it's still a huge issue that child abuse cases, most of the times parents are actually reluctant to contact police. Settlements comes under the pressure or avoid to lodge a case. Then, but do you think that child courts legislation would be a beacon of hope, at least for children and their families? Will it ensure real-time justice is delivered to the victims and their families to come forward without any fear?
This is very obvious. Like if justice system starts working and the conviction rate goes up, obviously the trust level will go high of the parents, of the other guardians, and of the children as well on the system. But unfortunately, as you mentioned, I also contributed with other colleagues to produce this Zainab Alert Response and Recovery Act. It was basically the wish of the little girl Zainab's father, that we should have the system like that exists in the Europe or America, like Amber Alert. So the then politician suggested we should have this sort of system of alert and response and recovery within a national level system. So we worked on this bill, and the whole purpose was to come up with the system where there is no delay in reporting first, and then response from the police as well as from the for the alert at the national, provincial, or territorial level. So this was the whole scheme of the Zainab Alert Response and Recovery Act 2020. But unfortunately, there are still the rules are pending within the government. Zainab Alert Response and Recovery Agency was established, DG was appointed, but the desired things which were needed under the law are still not completed. But luckily, we see in Punjab that on the parallel lines, Safe City project has integrated the same system, like on the any report of child missing report, they do issue an alert. Same in Sindh, the CPLC with the has developed a Zainab Alert system, and they are issuing the alert system. But there is still a need to a very efficient national response system, because the law requires whenever a child is missing from a territory, they have to.
You are absolutely right, Miqdad sahab, that we have to finalize all those pending rules earlier and to implement them sternly across the country. That is more important, really. Sharafat sahab, as Miqdad sahab was saying, that what about this, to strengthen this reporting mechanism and authentic medico-legal aspect as in undergoing legislation? Obviously, both houses has to pass this one. Rather based on the child consent, medico-legal requirements now going to be made mandatory. The medical report must have to be produced within 24 hours rather than 48 hours. The separate trained judges or the magistrates must have to hear the cases, and experienced lawyers are going to plead these cases. So how do you see overall implementation, particularly when we are talking about these initial things, that strengthening the reporting mechanism, then police has to be very alert, the Zainab alert system must have to be efficient and implemented, and then the authentic medical legal things, because most of the times cases are going to be ruined at the initial stages.
It's a very important issue, Faisal. The core problem lies of the timely reporting. If there's no timely reporting, there cannot be timely medical examination, and particularly in sexual abuse cases, you know that mostly these offenses happen at a kind of secluded place, at a place where you cannot find eyewitnesses. So medical examination, medical report, medical evidence is very, very important. I got a kind of case in which there was only one hair was recovered and a person was convicted for the lifetime. Due to that one hair, because DNA was matched. So it's otherwise there was no eyewitness available there. So there's no doubt in it that it's very much important that we have timely reporting. So the problem is that how we can improve that. Zainab Alert is one of the category, you can say one of that app is very important, but people need to know. Everybody should have that app in his or her phone, that if anybody get a news, they should report that, because that's a very quickest mechanism. KP Parveen's the same, the Sindh police also, they have developed their own apps as well. So first and foremost thing is that people need to know, then you can educate people at even children at the school level that how to report. There should be certain reporting mechanism at the institutional level as well, where for example a child reports to the teacher, teacher reports to administration, that reaches to the police immediately. And once it reaches to the police, then the next procedure starts. And I will again, at the cost of the repetition, I will again reiterate that if you refer to the Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act, that proposes the Anti-Rape Crisis Cell. And that's been established, that's been notified throughout Pakistan, but still mostly people don't know about that. There may be only a few districts where they are not notified, but they need to be operationalized. Anti-Rape Crisis Cell got a police representative, a medical legal representative, it got a district administration representative, and it requires a person who's expert in providing psychosocial support to the victim. So all is in a one. For example, in Islamabad, in PIMS, it's been established. So if you just go there, you will get the medical support, you will get your FIR registered, you will get psychosocial support, everything is there. So we need to establish, bring these services to all the far-flung districts as well.
Obviously, you're absolutely right. Dr. Malik Ahmad sahab, as we look into the international arena, UNICEF report 2023 suggests that 26.2 million children are actually out of school. 13.7% of them aged between 10 to 17 years, they are engaged in acute child labor. Most of them, like 8.2%, are into the, or 2.05 million children are involved in intensive child labor. And then lack of education, jobs, and the social care, social protection opportunities. Youth actually, or our children, are indulging into different criminal activities, especially most of the gangs or the mafias use them in terrorism, in begging, then in drug abuse, and even trafficking of these drugs. So how do you see the overall situation of the child labor, the child abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, sexual, or any kind of that?
Faisal, the thing is, as you just mentioned about the 26 million, children out of the school. So in case if we have, human rights or child rights education at school level, that means these 26 million children
will never get that.
They will never get that
opportunity
education,
to have that education.
So the problem starts from here. When we are still unable to enroll our every child into the school, at least to go that children through the primary education up to the grade 10 minimum, because in the developed countries, the primary education is either 10 grades or 12 grades. So this is what they're, they have to have that. Afterwards, if anyone wants to quit education, any child, any adult, they could quit, So the problem arises when we do not have every child into the school. And the school is the only place where we can give them education, where we can, create awareness amongst the children, what is good touch, what is bad touch, who is your relative, who is your, even, in the developed countries, I have lived 12 years in Europe, what I have seen that government is basically the protector of a child. Even that child lives with the parents, even the government asks them, facilitate the parents to have that child and to have their upbringing very well, but still they watch the kid whether he or she is being brought well or not by the parents. But here, even, like we have seen that, and I was seeing, the facts and figures, it states that almost 41% accused, those who are involved in any child abuse act, they are the acquaintances of the child. So it's a huge number. And then almost 7 to 9% are those who are along with the acquaintances, they commit that kind of crime. So it means that the government bodies, civil society, they have to have the, to play a strong role to look what is happening around the kids. Another important point which I have, read in 2 government reports. One was the NCHR report in 2015, after that Kasoor incident.
Yes.
Then there is another report of Federal Ombudsperson report in 2019 after the Zainab incident. In both reports, these reports mentioned that inefficiency of the police, unwillingness of the local, either the political people or the, you could say that the political elite or the powerful elite of that particular region. So it means we have to increase the
political
efficiency.
And the social influences upon
Political
the
and
police
social
is
influences.
always a problem.
And
really.
then there are, acquaintances when there is no witnesses. So the thing is, it is not about the society only. It is not about the parents only. It is not about the kids only who has to, even if they are aware where they should
This
go.
is again a taboo that no one comes for
to report that.
Definitely.
And if they report, then we see that 41% acquittal cases.
Even the witnesses are not coming forward because of the several reasons.
This is
No
what
doubt.
they do not
So,
face the
what
facilitation.
about this? The data from the U.S. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children actually paints a very grim picture, placing Pakistan among the top 3 countries globally regarding the children online harassment after Indonesia and Bangladesh as of till 2022. Pakistan had a total of 5.4 million online child exploitation reports in 3 years.
Yeah.
It's a huge number.
Indeed.
So how do you see that?
Actually, it comes again the socio-economic condition of the country. Until unless we need to look at the human rights, child rights, women rights.
Because online
as
and cyber
holistically.
harassment is one of the new
Holistically.
and very important aspect, and it
Very
is threatening
important.
actually the society.
No one can know what is happening or what the child is, watching on online. So we have to be very, we do need to have a strong eye on the child activities, and in that case, the parents are the first who can, watch what the child is doing, one thing. The second is the neighborhood watch. This is what one of the reports suggested too, that the neighborhood watch has been lacking now, which we had previously. Now everyone is looking at their own, businesses. Even the neighbor does not know what is happening in the next door. Even if they do not, report what has happened in their neighbor. So the thing is, regarding the child labor or regarding the online, this harassment, although we have, as the both advocates, they have mentioned about so many laws, and even we have reputation of the laws, but the thing is, until unless we do not have the proper implementation without being compromised, we cannot have the child rights or even child labor. We cannot end child labor. We cannot end begging, child begging. We cannot control all these rights in the
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Sharafat sahab, taking this forward, unfortunately, despite of lots of efforts in Pakistan for the child protection, but still frequently exploited through begging, the labor or as the domestic servants, even the trafficking and underage marriages even. Then their physical, emotional, sexual abuse and neglect is always there. Then the deprivation of their rights to have education, healthcare and shelter also. Do we have mechanisms available to address the child issues? Extensive interagency collaboration is always there, and a centralized national database, because earlier Malik Ahmad sahab was asking about that, and that is very relevant area to assess the ground realities through that data, and then to have real-term actions based on that data to harness the scale of the problem to effectively deal with it.
Faisal, your question is very interesting, and it requires almost a thesis to write. It requires such a long answer to require. You started with citing a data of a private data, not a government data. It should have been why it's private. The National Commission on the Rights of the Child Act 2027, the commission has been established. It's their second tenure, and it's the mandate of the National Commission on the Child Rights to have a data on the child development, child abuse, all the child-related issues, to have a central database.
Do we have this central database available?
It's not existing. Always, whenever you refer to the data, you refer to the different organizations. You refer to the Sahel report when you refer to the sexual abuse. You refer to another organization, SSOD. There are different organizations who are working, but still, the National Police Foundation now is designated to collect data under the Anti-Rape, I will again refer to the Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act. And recently, they come up with the figures gathered from throughout Pakistan that these special courts, the trial that's been conducted under these special courts, the conviction has been slightly increased. Previously, it was around 3.23%. Now it crossed the 5%. Still, you know that still the KP prosecution department last year, they collected data, and you know that among the data, there were around 30% of the cases where the accused were acquitted only due to lack of evidence. So whatever the mistake you make at any stage, as either investigation stage or medical legal examination
You have to pay for that,
or
and actually the children of Pakistan
the
have to
only
pay
beneficiary is the accused person. So that's why, you know, that we got the existing mechanism, we have the institutions, but you know that I will refer to another concept that I usually talk about, that the legislative budgeting, the concept of legislative budgeting is still not existing. We have the legislation, and then you know that we make the institutions, and then they do not have the requisite powers.
Your point well taken. Your point well taken. Advocate Miqdad sahab, UNICEF says that the child protection system consists of laws, the policies, regulations and services required across social sector, such as the social welfare, then the healthcare, security and justice to prevent and respond to the risk related to the child protection. Then also the seamless coordination among all the stakeholders, where we stand actually as a nation. Miqdad sahab.
Yeah, Faisal Sahab, your question is very important. Actually, it's unfortunate that we don't have a very comprehensive child protection system within Pakistan at any level. In 2005, I remember when I started this working on these things in 2005, first ever National Plan of Action was passed by the government against child sexual abuse and exploitation. It was in 2005, there was a comprehensive plan was started out with after a long consultative process, how to prevent from the sexual abuse, how to protect the children from the sexual abuse and exploitations, how to provide the recovery and rehabilitation, and how to make sure the participation of the children in different initiatives. But unfortunately, after that, these constitutional amendments, provincial autonomy, the problems were created, and we could not follow that same national plan of action. But again, we require a state level child protection policy at the federal level, at the provincial level. I remember.
So Miqdad sab, you were mentioning about the National Action Plan to protect our children. So how much do you categorize this importance that there must have to be child protection committees at the school and the madrasa levels? Because most of the times after parental guidance in the family and their home time, what they are spending over there with family, then afterwards the school is very important, the madrasas are very important. So how much do you not think that these child protection committees must have to dare to give the human rights education, the child rights education to those children, give them awareness about the good and bad touches, and to have practical implementation of that in school, so that our children must have to be equipped that what is right for them and what is wrong?
Definitely, schools and seminaries are the critical spaces for children, but unfortunately, we yet have a lack of formal child protection committees, child protection system within the schools. I remember I was quoting up a case in 2017. I represented the special children in the Lahore High Court who were the victims of the corporal punishment in a bus in Lahore and in Daska as well. High Court suggested, and they formed a judicial commission to assess all the special education centers. Faisal Saab, you will astonish to listen. They had multiple policies to protect the buses, to hire the persons, to manage this thing, that thing, but they had nothing about the child protection. The studies says that the special children are more or 3 times more vulnerable to any abuse or exploitative situation than a normal child. But unfortunately, there was no system of child protection. Then I realized how important child protection committees, child protection systems are for our schools, our special education centers, our child protection centers, for our seminaries or madrasas. But still, there is not few very good schools and the big names have their systems and the child protection guidelines, but unfortunately there is no mandatory child protection committees or systems available in the schools.
Absolutely,
especially
absolutely right, Miqdad sahab, absolutely right, Sharafat sahab. How much it is important to create awareness through media, especially among parents, teachers, and other important segments to have effective counseling of the children about, obviously about the good and bad touch and online abuse and regarding bad communication in written or in verbal form. How to avoid or deal with such a situation if arises, God forbid, how to seek help particularly?
With all the, I can say the pessimistic things so far we have discussed, the only, you can say one good
briefly,
thing that...
Briefly, because we have run short of time.
One good thing that we can say that we cite a lot of numbers now. This means that the reporting has been increased, it has been encouraged. And somehow the taboo of not reporting about the sexual abuse is been, you can say, overcome. So I think this need to be encouraged. There's no doubt in it that this should be talked at all level. As you said, Miqdad said, even at a school level, at a madrasa level, even you can say in our society, at home.
Everybody must have to talk about it.
There's a lot of need to, there's a lot of need to be discussed.
We have to get rid of these taboos because ultimately we have to protect our children.
The only alternative is that the children will have to suffer if you will remain silent.
Obviously.
So you will have to speak. You will have to speak about this at all levels.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Malik sahab, a very short brief. Psychological trauma of a child abuse is huge.
Indeed.
And it lasts long during entire life of a child victim. It creates severe state of depression, anxiety, stress, mental health issues among affected children. What's the way of psychological treatment to get them out of this trauma?
I think it's a very pertinent issue because even those who are going to school, they do not have that,
Definitely, we need more
facilitation.
stress on it, and
You
might
know?
be the separate
No,
program
this
on
is,
that.
this is
because
very much
mental
important
health is
because in developed countries, they have psychosocial support at school level.
Definitely.
They do profiling of every child, not only because that child has been
and
through
even
any
psychiatrists
trauma.
and psychologists are the
Yeah.
integral part of
Integral
schools.
part of the school, integral
Yes.
part of the society, integral
Yes.
part of the local government. This is very important because we have to give child rights or human rights to every citizen of this country. And a person, an executive, person, the government person who is sitting in Lahore, Karachi, Quetta, Peshawar, Islamabad, they cannot look at what is happening in DG Khan, what is happening in Gwadar, what is happening, in DI Khan, So it means that it has to be provided at their doorstep. So for that, the school is the best infrastructure the government owns. Because the schools we have in every union council, we have in every villages. So these are the beginning and school where the student, the kids
Definitely,
have to
schools
come.
and the madrasas,
So
these are the
this
very
is the
important
place where
segments.
we
So
can
we have run
start
short of time.
profiling. We have
Thank you very
start
much,
profiling,
Malik Ahmad sahab. Thank you very much for your presence here in the studios. Thank you very much, Sharafat sahab, for having here. And thank you very much, Miqdad sahab, for being online and very candid and very brief views about child abuse. Thank you very much for that. Viewers, it's a very important, very delicate subject. Our children are actually our future. And as our participants elaborated, implementation of the existing legislations is very important. Accountability of all concerned is very important. Then it comes to no doubt that the intention of this child protection bill about the child courts, establishing of the child court, is very encouraging because it's ultimately about child protection. But we have to avoid duplications. We have to go with the existing legislations which are available. If there are loopholes, we can have to bridge those loopholes. But it is important that we have Anti-Rape and Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Act 2021 that is there. Juvenile justice law and regulations are already there. So we have to strengthen the reporting process of a child abuse. We have to strengthen the policing system. The Zainab alert must have to be in every mobile set. That app must have to be there. And that whatever the gaps existing and the rules which are pending must have to be finalized earlier. Then the centralized data is a must to have correct decision making and pinpointed decision making, because without centralized data it would be impossible to act timely. Then obviously that we must have the child protection committees at schools and even in madrasas. The psychiatrists and psychologists must have to be inducted in the school system. We have lots of text available how to protect the child, but we have to take practical steps to protect our children at schools and madrasas and elsewhere. Parents must have to be educated, teachers must have to be educated. These are very important segments. Then obviously the online crimes against children, the cyber bullying, then harassment and all others, we have to keep focus on these, because unfortunately, and we have to strengthen our policing system, the prosecution, the investigation, then our courts as well. 41% of the crimes actually committed against the children, and they are mostly the relatives. So we have to be focused on that. Then obviously the conviction rate, we have to increase it. 3.2% improvement is a slightly improvement in that. That is now 5%, but we have to increase that rate. That is still low, and we have to implement all these rules, regulations for our better tomorrow, because our future is actually our children. So if we have to be cautious about our future, then we must have to focus on the protection of our children. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.